Mickey Loomis, it's stupid to think Dennis Allen has lost the Saints locker room. Yeah, you're right, Mickey. I'm not sure why we would think something like that. It's not like Jameis Winston and the rest of the team just completely defied your orders in front of God and everyone to not take a knee, but instead they decided to run out of the victory formation a touchdown, and then in response, the rest of the team supported them on Twitter and social media. So no, I don't think there's any reason we should think that there's some kind of mutiny or some kind of disrespect going on or anything like that. Everything is totally fine. The culture's intact. No reason to worry here, ladies and gentlemen.
You finished 9-8, beat the Falcons handily 48-17. You win 4 of your last 5. So many positive things to build upon, except probably that thing at the top of the list, which would be, win the division or make the playoffs. So, that's where it begins, right?
Yeah.
So many positive things, except win the division, make the playoffs, go over your win total, be successful offensively or defensively. Ooh, except all those things, except those minute details, very successful season.
It definitely begins there, because that's the goal in the beginning of the season, and I think it was a very realistic goal to have double-digit wins and to win the division was very realistic, and we didn't get that accomplished. And so overall, I would say it was just a disappointing season.
Good. I'm glad Mickey could say that. I'm glad he could admit that it was a disappointing season, because it was. And for him, if he were to come out and say, no, it was pretty solid what we saw there, I'd be really concerned. I mean, so I'm glad he at least admitted that wasn't good enough.
I do like, as you mentioned, that we finished, 1-4 of the last 5, finished really strong. We saw a number of times, a number of games where, it looked like a good performance, offense, defense, and special teams. And so that's encouraging. But we've got to be able to do that consistently throughout an entire season.
Let's talk about Derek Carr, and two questions on him. First off, just his availability. 17 starts. We've seen the impact throughout the.
Carr has been durable in his career. He fought through some injuries this year, fought through a ton of injuries, missed some quarters, but never missed a game. So he certainly was tough. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Carr definitely battled through some adversity physically this year, and you do have to tip your cap to him and just how much he was able to deal with on a week-to-week basis.
League, for many, many teams, because of quarterbacks being injured. He fought through. He wasn't 100% every week, right, at those starts, but he fought through some.
That is kind of like the ultimate just encompassing description of the season, though, where it's like, all right, let's try and find a positive. Derek didn't miss a full game. He missed halves of games, but hey, 17 games. Hang a banner. Hang a banner that says Derek Carr played in all 17 games.
Stuff, this year.
Yeah, I think really people don't realize how hurt that he was during the year, and still rolled it out there, still played well.
Yeah, respect.
Did some really good things in spite of, having a really banged up body. And look, the best ability is availability, right? And so
True.
we were lucky enough during the Drew Brees years to have him available, 95% or whatever percentage of time that he was available. That's not common in our league. We saw a number of quarterbacks go down during the course of this season and every season.
Yeah, a lot of the times the teams that end up winning or making playoff runs, usually they're the healthiest. Usually they're the ones who have their major playmakers not having injuries. I mean, we saw it this week right now with the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins have a ton of injuries. We saw the Eagles with a ton of injuries. Jalen Hurts is banged up. So you kind of do have to play the game, but part of it is also maintaining health for your playmakers.
And so for Derek to be able to go out there, tough it out when he's hurt, that just speaks to how tough he is.
And certainly towards the end, right? I mean, his numbers, you look at the last 5, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Against Atlanta, he was 22 of 28. Again, like a 75%, 74.8 completion percentage.
And most importantly, Carr was good in the red zone. Towards the end of the season, Carr was better in the red zone. He was more efficient, and that really was a tough thing for him early in the season. And it also was a tough thing for him with the Raiders. So that is something. I would say how Carr finished. He handled the injuries, he handled getting booed, all that stuff. How he finished, I think, is an actual positive moving forward.
And, even though he was here, from March of last year, beginning of the season, went through the whole thing, he wasn't taking snaps with A.T. Perry. He wasn't on the team yet. I mean, there's a growth, right, that goes through the season for Derek Carr, right?
Yeah, I think that you're exactly right. I think there's an acclimation. No matter how much of a veteran player you are, you have to get acclimated to your teammates, to the offense that you're running, the play calling, the tempo that we play at. There's all kinds of things that are
even more so if you're a veteran, because if you're a veteran, you're used to one thing, or you're used to a certain way of doing it, and then to go to a whole different system with a whole different group of players, all that to learn, it's probably harder for a veteran to get used to that kind of stuff faster.
Different, when you change teams, and look, I think Derek did a really good job in a lot of areas. I mean, he was a top 10 quarterback in our league. He just is. Look at the rating points. Look at the numbers. Look at the performance. We get extra critical because
look, I hate to say this, very polarizing, controversial yet brave opinion. He's not a top 10 quarterback. Bottom line, Carr's not a top 10 guy. He's probably somewhere between 12 and 15, if I had to guess. Top 10's a bit nuts. I mean, if we're throwing that out there, that's just kind of, I'm not sure what statistics you're looking at, but they're not the right ones. Okay, I don't think Carr's bad. I don't think he's bad. Relax. Put down, take your fingers off the keyboard. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying, let's be real here. The season he just had was not a top 10 quarterback season.
Because we only won 9 games. I get it. We should be critical. But there's a lot of good things that he did, and I think it bodes well going forward.
You talked to the team, I believe, after the season. Just not broadly speaking, what was the message?
So from what I heard, the conversation was basically Loomis telling everyone that they needed to buy in. It was basically him saying, whoever here is not ready to buy into the culture, buy into this, buy into that, you may have to go. So it was kind of a coming to Jesus kind of moment because of the divide that was created with the whole Jameis Winston fake kneel touchdown situation with Dennis Allen. So it sounds like, from the outside looking in, sounds like there was a real rift there, a divide, some would say, there, and then Mickey had to come in and try and cool things off and try and, punish the kids for fooling around. The classic substitute teacher getting just frazzled, and then the principal has to come in and try and settle the class down.
Yeah, look, I did do that. I don't do it very often, and it's really a message just for the players. And so I'm going to leave it at that. Trying to set the tone for what we expect going forward, and I thought it was well received.
I guess the process moving forward for you, as far as meetings with Dennis and Mrs. Benson and your staff. So Coach Allen last night said he kind of takes a week, to get all the emotions out of it before he meets with his staff. What is your schedule moving forward with that? Yeah,
same thing.
That's pretty smart, though. I think you should take a week, 2 weeks, let the emotions go away, let everything, let the height of the season, because everyone's just firing. You're firing, you're trying to win the division for the Saints in the last game of the season. There's so much happening. It probably is better to take a step back, relax, let all that happen, let the emotions go away, and then evaluate things.
We're in here this week. We're just talking about a few things that are more procedural. How do we want this offseason and the evaluations to go? And then starting next week, we'll start talking about the player evaluations and move on from there. And look, the process of evaluating, college players for this draft is already deep. We're deep into it. Jeff,
I certainly hope so.
And
I certainly hope the college prospect evaluation has started since the draft's in a couple months. Saints are picking at 14. Very important. So, yeah, I might want to fire up that game tape there, Mickey.
And Dennis and I will start getting involved in that very, very shortly.
He battled through injuries, but I would suspect that this will be a very important offseason for Trevor Penning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why the hell are we talking about Trevor Penning? Guys, he can't play. The guy can't play. Bottom line, I don't need to see any more. We don't need to try and move heaven and earth to develop this guy. He can't play. All right? Put him on the Robert Gallery list. Could have been good, a little too raw, doesn't understand the game. It's not going to work. Move on from him. He's not the first overall pick. We don't owe this guy $60 million. Get rid of him. Get someone else in there. Bring in an offensive lineman who can do it. And if whoever you bring in can't do it, bring in another one. This is the offensive line we're talking about. It is the most turnover position in football. That and defensive backs. And by turnover, I mean you can just shuffle people in, shuffle people out until you find someone who works. It's not a quarterback. It's not a wide receiver. It's not a running back. It's none of that stuff. Just next man up. Next man up. This person's not getting the job done. Get him out of there. I'm tired of talking about Trevor Penning. Okay? It's insane. All the stuff that's happened this season. We're 4.5 or 5 minutes into, a little over 4.5 minutes into this interview, and now we're talking about Trevor Penning. We go from our $150 million franchise quarterback, which should be the first question, and now we're talking about Trevor Penning, a guy who logged as many snaps as I did towards the last couple weeks of the season.
Absolutely, it's an important offseason for him, and we got to put him in the situation to be successful. You know, we've got to.
The most successful situation he could probably be in is get him a desk, get him a computer, and let him sell insurance somewhere else. Let him do something else, anything else. That's how he could be the most successful. Take his cleats, throw them away. Helmet, pads, jersey, all that stuff, get rid of it. Because as long as he's putting cleats on, as long as he's playing on the offensive line, he's not going to be successful. So if we want to help him be successful, let's look for a different occupation. Veterinarian, I don't care. Firefighter, whatever. Dentist, doesn't matter to me. Whatever he wants. I want him to be just as successful as everybody else. But he's not going to be successful on the offensive line for the New Orleans Saints.
To help him with his development, with his confidence, he's got the ability to be a really good player in our league. But we've got to enable that by putting him in the right environment, giving him the right development, and we'll do that. We will do that.
But you see players come in from smaller schools who've maybe been big fish in a small pond, but something like that, and they have some success early, and then they have some time struggling, and it is a confidence thing, right? I mean, you must have seen this before with players that have kind of been in that situation and kind of how to get out of it.
Well, it's a lot of things. And look, in Trevor's case, he did come from a smaller school. I wouldn't say it was a small school, it was a smaller school. But he had some success playing against better competition. I think the biggest issue for us was, man, he was hurt half of his first season. He didn't.
The whole thing was he came in, he was raw as a prospect. He worked out well. He is a physical freak. He's huge, right? You see that. It's like, whoa, if we can kind of harness some of this could be good. Then, yeah, he gets hurt. Then he comes in, and now you get to see what he's actually put together, and it's just not there. Again, it's not that big of a deal. It happens all the time. No harm, no foul. On to the next one.
Didn't have a real offseason this last year. And so he's behind in development, but it's not really his fault. It wasn't his fault that he got hurt. It wasn't his fault that this offseason he was unable to do the things that you normally get to do going into your second year. And so we probably threw him out there a little too soon, and it was unfair. And so we've got to get that corrected.
I know Coach Allen has talked about it, but I guess on the whole Jamaal Williams victory touchdown, one, if you have any comment. Two, is there going to be trickle down? Do you think that maybe next year, I mean, certainly for when you play Atlanta both times, it'll probably rear its head, but do you think there'll be any trickle down impact from this?
What is the trickle down impact? I mean, I'm just like, do they think Atlanta's going to take cheap shots? Like, what is the trickle down effect? I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think it'll be pretty much forgotten. As far as like Atlanta playing Atlanta, I don't understand what could be the trickle-down effect. And I'll go ahead and tell you all this. I'm surprised they haven't already got rid of Jameis Winston, because they're going to get rid of him anyways. They have to, I think they have until March 16th or something like that to decide basically to cut Jameis or pay Jameis. They're obviously going to cut him. So unless there's a restructure, but I figured they would have already moved off of him just to kind of bring some closure to the situation. Just kind of like, because right now it's kind of odd. Right now Jameis is lingering around. Some of those players who are speaking up in support of Jameis are, were doing their stuff on social media, and it's this weird kind of haze over the Saints where Dennis is there, right? And it seems like he has completely lost the locker room, even though, according to Mickey Loomis, that's a stupid idea. But Dennis is there, and it looks like he's completely lost the locker room. Yet, we're recommitting to him, so it seems like it would be hard to believe you bring the same locker room and expect everyone just to kind of forget what happened. So it's a very weird situation that nothing has happened after we saw what to me was the most public display of lack of respect from a team to a coach.
Oh, I don't know. Look, I think we should have nailed it down. Yes, I understand what the players did. I don't think it was malicious on their part. They're just trying to do something for a teammate. I completely understand that. There's nothing malicious about it. Yet I wish it hadn't happened. I don't think it's the right thing. I think I think it's been made a bigger deal of than it needs to be. And yet
I think it's definitely been made a bigger deal in other circles. Like the whole, it disgraced the city of New Orleans. The whole, this wouldn't have happened 30 years ago, and this ruined the foundation of the NFL, and 30 years ago the NFL was better. Because I think all that talk, the Shannon Sharps and whoever who have just went scorched earth on the situation, and they're visibly nauseous talking about it. Even Bobby Hebert's rant, I think all of that was just way overblown. What's not overblown, and the actual touchdown. I think people who are upset because it was out of the victory formation, all that stuff, who cares? What's not overblown and what cannot be overblown is the fact that they got a call from Dennis Allen, and as a team decided, yeah, we're not doing that. This wasn't a practice. They know this is a rivalry game on Fox. They know the world is watching. They know that. At this point, they're thinking we could be the division champions. They don't know what's going on in the other games. So in a huge game, a huge spot, I understand that the score was out of hand, but this wasn't preseason. This was a big moment. And they decided, against all that, they said, we're not going to do what he says. We're going to do the opposite of what he says. That right there cannot be understated.
I think sportsmanship is a good thing to talk about. I don't think we talk about it enough in all of our endeavors, particularly NFL games. Sportsmanship's a good thing, and it sends the right message. But I also think it's kind of being overblown. I mean, players are trying to just do something for their teammate. It wasn't that they were trying to embarrass the...
Sorry if y'all can hear the sirens playing in the background, ladies and gentlemen. This is a good look at what it's like to live in downtown New Orleans. Well, hell's breaking loose out here. It's World War III. Okay, I think the sirens are gone. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen.
Falcons are just trying to do something for Jamaal and themselves. And I understand why Atlanta and their coach would be upset. So I guess that's all I've got to say about it.
And conversely, and this will be the last question on this topic, was that the whole fallout of Dennis's reaction, and you and I have talked about this before, that, well, he's lost the team. It's like, well, what's he supposed to say, right?
Oh, that's just stupid.
First of all, Mickey, let's try and watch your language, okay? There's no need to talk like a longshoreman. What's he supposed to say? Don't say anything. You could have just said, well, the players wanted to get Jamaal a touchdown, so it is what it is, and that's all I got to say about it. Like, you don't have to say anything. You certainly don't have to throw them under the bus. You certainly don't have to apologize to Atlanta and apologize to Arthur Smith. You don't have to say any of that stuff. It would have been better if Dennis would have said, it's a rivalry game, it's heated, players wanted to do something, so we scored. We're on the next season. It's better if y'all hear these sirens, ladies and gentlemen? It's better if he says that than to throw his team under the bus for nothing. The problem with the Dennis Allen thing is that he took a risk, but there was no reward. He's apologizing to his rival's fan base. He's apologizing to a coach who was 4 hours away from getting fired. What did he do? What was the risk? Throwing his team under the bus. What was the risk? Losing the locker room. That's the risk. Respect is a big deal, especially when you're talking about a head coach and a player. If you lose the respect of a locker room of alpha athlete millionaires, that respect doesn't come back, especially when you're Dennis Allen, you're 30 games under 500. So he didn't, like, the idea, like, what's he supposed to say? Anything besides what he said. He could have chosen, if it was a multiple choice, there could have been 1,000 choices, and the one he picked was by far the worst one.
Right.
That's just people making comments to make comments. It's stupid to say that. There's not one player that would say that. That's not, they were just trying to do a favor and do something good, what they perceived as good for a teammate. Had nothing to do with, defying the head coach or anything like that.
They did defy the head coach. And that was it. I mean, it doesn't matter what the end is. It doesn't matter what the reason is. It doesn't change if you tell a kid, hey, don't eat that ice cream, and the kid eats the ice cream, and it's like, well, I know you said don't, but I really wanted it. It's like, I don't care what the reason is. You still chose to defy. You still chose to disrespect. You still chose all that stuff. The players still chose. They wanted to get Jamaal Williams a touchdown. Understandable. But they still decided to defy Dennis Allen. What does that say about Dennis Allen? Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, Mickey Loomis has to say this. He obviously isn't going to come out here and say that that the locker room is lost. I get that. I understand that he isn't going to admit that. But for him to come out here and say this, it's disrespectful to us, honestly. It's disrespectful to fans to hear these kind of answers. I mean, in today's day and age, think about how closely this team is covered. Think about how we see 20 years ago, this would have happened on the field. We wouldn't have seen any of the tweets. We probably wouldn't have seen Dennis Allen's post-game interview. We might have seen some of it. We wouldn't be seeing this video. We wouldn't have seen any of my videos covering it. The information that's out there now, you can't have that information and then also have people like Mickey Loomis and Dennis Allen telling us that it's just no big deal. That's been my whole thing with sports media for a while now, is that they have these hot take guys on ESPN or Fox Sports or wherever, and they're just saying things that don't make sense at all. And you're one Twitter search away, you're one Google search away, you're one YouTube video, you're one podcast, you're one whatever away from seeing that whatever they're saying isn't true. And there's so much evidence. There's so much of what we've seen in the last couple of days here that says the total opposite of what Mickey Loomis is talking about. The idea that this wasn't a big deal, or this wasn't an act of defiance, the idea that this wasn't disrespectful, the idea that this was no big deal, Dennis and the players are fine, no, this could have happened to anybody. That's just foolish. It's just downright foolish. It's stupid to think that Dennis Allen has not lost the locker room. How can you watch what happened? How can you watch the play, then watch the backlash, then watch Dennis Allen's interview, then watch all of the players on social media? How can you watch all of that and then be like, no, it seems like everything's pretty fine. Seems like everything's pretty chill. We've got beat writers on Twitter saying, the Saints culture isn't coming into question in the offseason. Mickey Loomis is telling players we got to get the culture back. Dennis Allen trying to regain the culture. We see all that on Twitter. We see all that with the beat writers. And then simultaneously, Mickey Loomis is like, guys, nah, we're fine. Come on. What are you talking about?
That's just silly. That's just overthinking.
So after kind of the next few weeks kind of play themselves out, and kind of the break, I guess, between Senior Bowl and Legacy Bowl, how do you kind of unplug? We asked this to Dennis yesterday. He didn't really, I don't think he does unplug, but what do you kind of do to kind of recharge for the next season?
That's a good question. Look, I've got young kids that pay attention to. I got a couple grandkids that I'm going to pay attention to.
Again, I understand it's WWL. I understand it's a softball situation. But after everything that just happened, with all of the coaches, the vacancies and all that stuff happening, Bill Belichick potentially could be going to the Falcons, all these people out there, the idea that we're talking the first interview with Loomis after the season, and we're now talking about how he's going to spend his off time. You gonna go to any beaches, play any golf? Like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking, Mickey? You gonna travel a little bit? Hey, I have an idea. How about we interview offensive coordinators? Hey, I've got an idea. How about you make a phone call to Bill Belichick or Mike Vrabel? Just tossing it out there. How about you try and figure out the draft? There's like, I don't know, 6 quarterbacks that are going to go in the top 10. Do we want to move up? Do we want to wiggle around? Who are we going to take at 14? Maybe go watch Jared Verse work out or something. I mean, maybe do something, Mickey. I mean, the idea that we're talking about him tanning, going down to Destin, enjoying himself on the beaches, going to Harbor Docks, having a large bottle of sake. If you know, ladies and gentlemen, if you go down to Destin, go to Harbor Docks, sit at the sake bar, ask for Yoshi. Just don't ask, okay? Just do it. But the idea that we're talking about that, when we should be talking about fixing this franchise, we should be talking about the next offensive coordinator. We should be talking about the next head coach. We should be talking about roster rebuild. That's what we should be talking about. I don't really care about Mickey's vacation plans. The idea that he's about to get on a Carnival cruise ship or go on a vacation makes me sick. Makes me sick. It really does. I'm not even going to finish this video. I'm not even going to finish the interview, because if we're just going to sit here and listen to him talk about beach volleyball or whatever's going on, I don't want to hear it. But let me make this clear. Let me make this crystal clear. I think the kneel down touchdown fiasco was the most evidence. Oh, what a phrase. The most evident evidence for disrespect and defiance and a lack of leadership and a lack of authority from the players and Dennis Allen. Yesterday, we had ex-Raiders CEO Amy Trask. We were reacting to her video. In her interview, she's saying she's not surprised this happened. Dennis Allen's not a leader. Dennis Allen can't command a room. Dennis Allen can't command a franchise. We heard all of that from her. And then today, we get to look Mickey Loomis in the face, sort of, kind of, via JPEG. We get to look him in the face and listen to him tell us how Trevor Penning is developing, who was benched for the entire back half of the year because he couldn't stay on his feet. He couldn't block anything. Just nonstop holes, nonstop sacks given up. We're told that Trevor Penning is developing nicely and that there's no reason to be concerned about a possible rift in the locker room and that it's just overblown. Oh, and here's my vacation schedule. Can you believe the 2 videos happened 24 hours from each other? Amy Trask, Dennis Allen. She went scorched earth on him yesterday. And then today we hear the Saints GM, the current employer of Dennis Allen. Who should be employing Dennis Allen? Barnum and Bailey. Because he's the biggest clown in the NFL, ladies and gentlemen. But Mickey Loomis, the guy who is employing Dennis Allen, is sitting here telling us that it's no big deal. And we're just overthinking it. Meanwhile, every time I open Twitter, first of all, there's multiple mentions, just complimenting the channel, complimenting the content. So I thank you for all that. But after I scroll past that, all I see on Twitter is Bill Belichick to the Falcons, Mike Vrabel, Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh, Nick, just all kind of stuff happening all over the place. Maybe Belichick will go to Dallas. Maybe, what if he goes to Philly, the Eagles? Sirianni could be available. I'm just hearing all this stuff. Dan Quinn to the Seahawks. Ben Johnson interviewing here. And what are we doing? Mickey Loomis is sunning his little toes in the white beaches of Destin, Florida. Sick. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. It's another really 10 out of 10 video. Go in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this. What do you think about Mickey, everything he said? Answer this question in the comments. What's more ridiculous? The Trevor Penning explanation from Mickey, or the Dennis Allen quote unquote stupid that he lost the locker room? Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.